right, you're listening to Geekvice, the official podcast of Please Send Us Free Money.
Welcome, everybody, to Geekvice, episode 111, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. Tonight, we have a night full of games, both board and video games, but let's get right down to it. My name's Morph, and that guy over there is Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
How are you doing this week?
You like my water bottle?
I do. With your stickers?
Yeah, for some reason, people in Colorado are crazy about stickers. I had nowhere to put them, so I put them on my water bottle.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, what better place should you put them than on your water bottle?
Yeah, this is true. Maybe somebody's car I don't like, but I figured I'll put them on my water bottle.
Before we get too far into this, I'm going to apologize now for sounding like a horse because I have, some kind of junk crud going around my house. And so I have a cough and I sound like I've been, gargling knives. So.
You sound like a chain smoker.
Yeah, that's what it is. I sound like a chain smoker. I'm going to apologize for having to listen to me now, but hopefully it'll get better soon.
I recommend whiskey.
Yeah, I should have fixed me a little hot toddy.
It may not feel good on the throat, but after a while you won't care.
Exactly. So, Kip, what have you been up to? You've been, playing a lot of board games lately, or what?
Funny you should ask. I've actually been in town, so I've been able to do some board gaming, which is quite nice, which is also
quite unusual for you.
Yeah, lately it is. It's quite unusual, and it has caused me to go and purchase a couple of games. So take the good with the bad. You decide which is which. The first game I got is Quantum. Here's the fancy box. If you're listening to it on the iTunes, you can't see the box. But anyway, in Quantum, you are a fleet commander. The game holds, before I get that far, I guess I should tell you how the statistics here. It's a 2 to 4 player game. It says on the box that play time is about 60 minutes. We have yet to have a game go more than 45.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm thinking this is a good lunchtime game.
Yeah, that's nice.
Board Game Geek gives its mechanics as area control, dice rolling, and a modular board, which sounds kind of confusing, but it's not too bad. It actually, until it says modular board, it sounded like Risk, didn't it? Area control, dice rolling. But it's not even close.
Okay.
In Quantum, you're a fleet commander, and you're trying to go to different planets, build basically quantum cubes, which are energy extractors of the planet that allows you to fuel your fleet so you can go further. Each player has a number of quantum cubes. They look like thus, little bitty things. And I've usually 5. I think every game I've played so far it said 5. I don't know if there's a number, if you go to 4, if that number goes up, because I haven't had a 4-player game yet. But the first person who can successfully deploy all their quantum cubes wins the game. And how you do this is it's a modular board, like thus.
Okay.
And each modular board has a planet on it, a planet value, and then 9 spaces around the planet. But only 4 of them that have these little squares in them are considered in orbit. And your ships are represented by dice. And to start the game, you roll 3 of your dice, and the number comes up, determines your ship type. The lower the number, the more powerful the ship, but the shorter movement.
Okay.
Like a 1 is a battle station, but you only move one space at a time. 6 is your really little fast ship, doesn't inflict much damage, but you can cover a lot of area. Once you have certain ships in orbit and they add up to the number value of that planet, then you can place a quantum cube. So if you had a 6 and a 3 in orbit, you could place a quantum cube on that.
Okay.
So basically, that is the thrust of most of the rules I just told you right there. That's how simple of a game this is. The trick of it is there's 4 possible, what do you call it? Choices. That's not the word. I hate it when I lose the word. 4 actions. There's the word that you can choose on your turn.
Okay.
It's move your ships or battle, place a quantum cube, do research. And research basically is you do nothing, but there's a die on your player card. I'll show you the player card. And you place a die at the number 1 up in the upper right-hand corner. If you do research, basically you don't do anything. You just flip the die over to the next highest number.
Okay.
Once you reach 6, there are these cards that they're called gambit cards, or man, I'm bad at this. Command cards. Command cards are basically a card that you actually keep. You can have up to 3 of them, and they give your ship extra abilities. Like maybe it helps you in battle, or maybe it helps you in movement, maybe even gives you an extra action. The gambit cards are a use immediately. Once you used it, you discard it kind of thing. And it could be anything from taking another action, moving a ship to wherever you want, moving somebody else's ship, moving somebody else's quantum cube. Once you have a quantum cube on the board, it never gets removed, but each planet only has so many slots for a quantum cube. Like this planet here in my hand has 3 spots for quantum cubes. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. I know you definitely can't hear it on the podcast. You see it on the podcast. But you can't have more than 1 unless you have the card that tells you you can. So if you see somebody getting ready to take this planet and you draw that gambit card that lets you move a quantum cube, you can take one of their quantum cubes from another planet, move it to there, and you just pretty much killed their strategy for that planet.
Okay.
Now they got to go back to the other planet and repopulate that one again. So there's some strategy there. The cool thing about it is, since it is a modular board, you can kind of set up what space looks like. It comes with a map in the directions kind of like this. These are your 2-player maps. On the back has 3-player and 4-player maps.
Oh, okay.
Just some suggestions. You can kind of create your own. So make your own shape as long as everything's adjacent.
Right.
And that just creates, more interesting ways of traveling around. Like I said, the number on your dice is how many squares you can move. All your movement is orthogonal. You cannot go diagonal unless your ship is a 5.
Okay.
You happen to roll a 5. So the movement is restrictive by ship type and by going orthogonally. There is battling. If you have 2 ships adjacent to each other on a square, the attacker rolls the black die. The defender rolls this clearish white die. And you take the number you rolled, added to the number on your ship, and the lowest number wins. So that's why the lower numbers are your most powerful ships.
Gotcha.
So if you have a 1 sitting next to a 6, you might as well attack that bad boy because you already have an advantage.
Yeah.
Even if you roll a 6, that means he has to roll a 1, and the tie goes to the attacker. So basically, if you're a 1 fighting a 6, you've already won.
Nice.
So there's that. And if you win, you get there's a place on your player board that is called Dominance. And it's just like the research. You put a die on there, put it on 1. Each time you win a battle, you move it up in 1. Every time you lose a battle, you drop it 1. And once you reach a 6, it is infamy, and you get to place a quantum cube wherever you want.
Oh, nice.
So the game, if nobody attacks, it's basically a rush to the nearest planet, try to get the number correct to match the planet value. They range anywhere from 7 to 9. I don't know if there's anything less than a 7. And build your quantum cube. If nobody battles, that's basically all it turns into, is a race, and you try to somehow outmaneuver. But with the battle aspect, they really do push it, because not only this infamy with the dominance dice, but the fact that when you do win a battle, that person's ship comes off the board, they re-roll it, and then they put it in the scrapyard on their player board. And then to put it back on the board takes an action away. So it's one of the few games where I find that you can choose to be totally passive if you wanted to, or you can totally be an ass and attack everybody. Both of them kind of give you an equal chance of winning. The first time I played this, there was a 3-player game, and I think we only had like 2 or 3 battles the whole game. We all just kind of stuck close to us on our end of the board and just kind of wormed our way through. Of course, I lost. I always lose. That's just kind of the way it goes. And then the next time, then after it was all over with, we're like, you know what? There needs to be more fighting. So the next time I played, there was a little more struggle, a little more battling, which added to it. More cards get played that way. It's like I said, you can be passive or you can be aggressive. It's your choice. Like I said, we haven't played a game that's lasted an hour. I think the longest game so far has been 45 minutes, and that was a 3-player game.
I was gonna say, how many people have you been playing with?
I've played 2 3-player games so far.
Okay.
And like I said, we played one passive, we played one aggressive. They both work equally well. I really like this game. I really like it for the fact that it comes with some really cool dice. They're all kind of frosted looking. They're pretty good size. I mean, I don't have little bitty hands, and you can see they're pretty good size against my fingers. So there's dice rolling. One of the special powers on one of the ships, which is the ship number 5, is for a free action. You can re-roll it. So if you used a 5 to get on next to a planet and you don't have the number, you can re-roll your 5 to see if you can get the number. So if you like rolling dice, perfect game for you. If you like being passive, again, another good game for you. If you like being aggressive and being an ass, perfect game for you as well. So I highly recommend Quantum. It's been a lot of fun, and it wasn't all that expensive. I think it was a $40 game, so which is nice. Yeah. So, and you can get it to the table. It doesn't take too long to explain. I don't think that took me too long to explain that game.
Not at all.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Quantum. Try it out. You'll like it.
I was gonna say we'll have to put that on our list for Geekvice Gaming and try that out. See if we can find an ability to play that and get it on our YouTube channel.
Absolutely, it'd be a good one. So that's game 1. Game 2, it's a little game called Splendor. So Friday we go to this place called Games Cafe in Independence, and what I like about them is they actually have games on the shelf that you can just take down and play. And I've been seeing Splendor a lot on Board Game Geek, but never had a chance to play. Well, Games Cafe actually had it on the shelf, so we pulled it down to play. And it's another very fast game. It's 2 to 4 players, just like Quantum. It says it's a 30-minute gameplay, and to me, that's pretty accurate.
Okay.
We've played a 4-player game and a 3-player game and a 2-player game, and they all seem to have taken about 30 minutes to play, which is nice. Again, another good game to play at work. Another good thing about it is the rule book is 4 pages, and page 1 is just a picture of the game. So really 2.5 pages of rules, and some of that is just explaining how to set up the game. So it's a pretty simple game. Even I can explain the game, and you know how that goes. Splendor, you're basically a merchant, and you are trying to gather gems, build. I don't even know, like buildings that you can manufacture or mine or whatever they do, gems, and some of them are worth victory points. Like this one's worth 5, and it's a sapphire. So the first person to 15 victory points wins. The trick of it is each gem starts out as like a poker chip.
Okay.
So you have a stack of poker chips, and on your turn, you can take 1, or you can take 3, but all 3 have to be of a different type. You can take 2 if the 2 are from the same type. But the rule there is you have to have at least 2 left behind in the stack. So if there's 3 or 2, you can't take 2. There has to be at least 4.
Okay.
So that makes it interesting. And what you do is you're trying to get enough gems of a certain type to be able to purchase the cards that you've placed out on the table. The card I have in my hand shows you need. Yeah, this is hard to do. It's backwards. This one is 1 sapphire, 1 emerald, 1 ruby, and it looks like chocolate, so we call it chocolate. I can't remember what the actual gem is.
It's probably onyx.
Probably, but chocolate sounds and looks better. So basically, you have to keep gathering chips until you meet these requirements. And then on your next turn, or at the end of the turn, if you got that, you can purchase the card. And as this one shows you, it's worth 1 diamond. So now you permanently have 1 diamond in your hand. So these ones that are the chips that you use to buy it, you have to discard them once you use it.
Okay.
But if you have a card that now requires a diamond, you can use this diamond and you never lose it. You always keep your cards.
Okay.
Which is nice. So basically, it's like you're building your wealth. You've used the chips, which are like cash. You spend it, you lose it. The cards are basically wealth, and you can use the diamond, the ruby, whatever on that card to help you purchase. And that comes in handy because the game has these noble cards, and they're worth victory points, and you're trying to win the favor of these nobles. So they're harder to get, and you can't use chips. You have to use card values to purchase to win the favor. So like this guy, it takes 3 chocolate, 3 ruby, and 3 diamonds. So you have to go into the town square, whatever they call it, and purchase enough cards over time to get this guy. And you have to be the first one to get it, and he comes off the board into your stack. He's not worth anything on purchasing, but he is worth, this one happens to be worth 3 victory points. So it's a race to win favor with the nobles. It's a race to buy the cards that have victory points. Not all cards do, but you need them to help win the favor of the nobles. And like I said, the first one to 15 wins. Another aspect of the turn play that I forgot to tell you is your turn can be either purchase a card, draw chips, or reserve a card. And that is if you have a card and you know somebody else wants it, it's your turn. You can take that card off the board. It doesn't count towards anything you own, but now you're the only person who can purchase it. And when you do that, you get a gold chip, which is kind of like a wild card. Now you can use this as any gem. So the upside is you get to take a card off the table, kind of strategy to keep anybody else from stealing it. The downside is you really only get one gem. But the upside to that one gem is it can be used as any of the other gems. But just like the other chips, once you've used it, you discard it. It's out of your hand. But as soon as you get up enough clout to purchase that card, then you on the turn you do that, you purchase the card. It goes into your hand, and now you can use it as counts as your wealth. So that comes in really handy because there's been a few times playing this game, you can tell both you and the guy across from you are going after the exact same thing. And it just happens to be your turn, so you can take the card off the table, which is nice. The cards that these come in have a dot at the bottom on the back. There's 1 dot, 2 dot, or 3 dots. So you keep them separated by that. And basically the 1 dot is like level 1. So the purchasing those particular cards is cheaper. 2 gets a little harder. 3 gets even harder, but the rewards are higher. There's hardly any cards in the level 1. Maybe there's none. Oh, there's a few that are worth a victory point. And then in level 2, there's more. And I think there's even some that are worth 2. And then in level 3, there's a lot more. And there's some that are worth 4 and 5, but they're expensive. So, like this one's worth 4 victory points. It takes 3 diamonds, 3 rubies, and 6 chocolates. So it's a pretty expensive card, but it's worth it. This one is a 5, and it takes 3 diamonds and 7 chocolates. So you can see risk reward on that. But you can also reserve it, put it away, and block anybody else from doing it. I like this game because, yes, 2.5 pages of rules. It's really easy. The strategy is fairly deep. You have to be able to think not only what you want, but the guys you're playing with, what they want. You have to see what they're gathering, what cards they're getting to make sure if you are going after the same noble, that you can get to them first. So I like that aspect of it. Get to be a little underhanded if you wanted to. You get to just be outright in your face if you want to, because everybody sees what you have. Once you buy a card, it's face up. Everybody can see, hey, this guy is collecting chocolates. He must be going after the noble that needs the most. And then you can either start trying to steal all of his chocolates away and go after the same guy, or you could just keep taking his cards and putting him in your reserve pile, and he can never get to them. But then again, you won't get what you want either, but it's kind of a funny thing to do. So I highly recommend it. It's another good take-to-work game. Doesn't take long to explain. Doesn't take long to play. Setup is fast. You can shuffle cards and make a 5x5 grid or whatever, 4x4 grid, whatever it is, pretty quick. The box inserts, everything has its own little place. The cards even have a place that they stand upright in. So put away is just as quick as setup. It's well organized, and like I said, you could probably play 2 games over lunch. It's that quick. So Splendor, get it, like it.
Very cool.
Yeah, we played a bunch of games Friday night, but Splendor and Quantum, I think, have been my favorites so far. But we've played quite a few. So I'm happy about that, being in town, getting to play games.
Yeah, I kind of get bummed that I can't come out there and meet you guys to play some of these games because they sound like a lot of fun.
Well, you need to call in sick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what
you already got the cough.
Yeah, I should be able to pull it off pretty easy, I would think. Yeah.
Except for you're busy as hell. But once that passes.
Well, Yeah, there is that. And well, okay, speaking of busy as hell, it's just, I've kind of gotten on this big like RPG kick. I'm having a fun plan. I'm having a fun. I'm having a fun. Apparently, I can't
Have fun.
speak either. So I'm having a lot of fun playing our fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons uh, sessions. Those are going really well. We've got another one coming up this weekend. And I've been having fun playing Legendary with the kids. Actually taught one of the neighbor kids how to play over the weekend, so that was a lot of fun. But I ran across an article on Geek and Sundry's website, which if you don't follow stuff on Geek and Sundry, you should. They are amazing people. They do amazing stuff. Both their articles and their YouTube channel is really good too. Lots of fun stuff to listen to. But they talked about they made a list of 4 board games that play like role playing games, and I just thought these were kind of interesting. I was looking at them because this is something that both my son and one of the neighbor kids have said that they want to play a D&D session, and it's trying to find the time and the resources, which I don't have, to kind of lead a game for them. But then I started looking at some of these games might actually work if I get one of try some of these games out, and if they enjoy these, then maybe D&D is the next step. And I wanted to throw out a couple of these games. I don't know if you've heard of them. One of them is Descent: Journeys in the Dark. Have you played that game or heard of it?
I've heard of it. I haven't had the pleasure of playing that game, but
Yeah, it looks a lot like your standard dungeon crawler type game. Um, of course, it comes with pre-made minis and dice and tiles and whatnot. But
I love
it,
pre-made minis.
yeah, exactly. It's your very stereotypical dungeon crawler type game. Sounds like a lot of fun. The other one, which is one that I've looked at purchasing, and I'm waiting for it to go on sale so that I can buy it because it's a little on the pricey side, is called Mice and Mystics. Will Wheaton actually had a couple of episodes on Tabletop playing this game, and it very very much a dungeon crawler type thing, but instead of playing your normal humans, dwarfs, elves, you play mice, and you are mice that are fighters or wizards or rangers. And so it's kind of fun. It's got a great little story to it. Looks like it's even built kind of in the sense of uh, uh, almost just like a pre-made RPG, in the sense that it gives you a story to follow. You can decide how you approach different aspects, but it's got 3 acts to the story, and so it could actually take a single sit-down game session and split it up into multiple sessions, and turn it almost like into a campaign with character leveling and side quests and all kinds of stuff. So really kind of cool. Uh, the other one that they mentioned was Legends of Andor. I have heard of this game somewhere. Someone was telling me about this game, but I don't remember who or why. But this is another one of those RPG games, but it almost seems more like a tower defense type game. You're fighting off hordes of monsters that are coming after you type thing. Um, Looks really cool. Some of the notes say that it's highly customizable, so which anytime you hear that something's can be customized a lot, kind of adds to that replayability. You're not going to get the same story over and over again.
Yeah, and it's ranked pretty high on Board Game Geek. Not well, its board game rank is 252nd, but it's got 7.35 stars out of 10. And to me, anything over 6 on Board Game Geek is usually a pretty good game. So that's a good
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, that was so. I'm gonna have to check out that one and see maybe that one fits into my wheelhouse. I might have to try that one. The fourth game that they mentioned in here, which I think might put a little bit of a stretch, is Lord of the Rings, the card game. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that a card game is going to make you feel like is going to feel like an RPG, but they say it is. I don't know. I haven't played this game. Have you played this one?
I have not. I have enough damn card games, to be honest. I own nothing Lord of the Rings. I just now thought of that. I have no board game that's Lord of the Rings.
Well,
That's weird.
Yeah, that is a little weird, especially for a board game geek like you.
And somebody who loves Lord of the Rings as much as I do.
Well, I guess, okay, so now the Kip's next purchase is going to be Lord of the Rings, the card game.
Probably not. I'm going to say no. But, you were talking about the Descent game. I own the D&D Legends of Drizzt board game. And I think it's pretty much the same gameplay. It's a modular board. Depending on the symbols on it, it either brings in a monster or whatnot. And you have cards that give you what your powers are for that character, and you roll dice in battle. So I think it'd be a lot of fun for you and your boys, because you basically fight a monster, almost a monster in every room. You get to roll some dice, do some battle.
Yeah,
there is a in game, depending on the adventure you choose, but at least it's pre-packaged. It just tells you how to shuffle the tiles and which tiles to put in. So I imagine Descent is probably pretty close to that.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll have to. I might have to borrow that Legend of Drizzt game from you so we can give it a shot here at the house. Or hey, maybe we just have you come down and bring it with you. And
hey, either way, I'm good. Because I like that game, and what I like about those kinds of games is there's a solo component to those.
Yeah,
you can just play by yourself if you wanted to. Plus, there's really cool minis that come in it, and the game isn't so overly complicated that you can't play more than one character. So yeah, if Descent is the way I think it is, which I believe it is, it's just like the Legend of Drizzt game, which is also I think there's two other D&D games that are pretty similar to that. Highly recommend that, especially for you and your young your fledgling gamers at your house. I think you guys can get a kick out of it, and you don't have to do a lot of setup. You don't have to create your own adventure. They're there for you.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things right now. That's part of the reason why I started looking into some of these games, and especially when I ran across that article on Geek and Sundry, because the complexity of just trying to build your own campaign, or even just try to run the time involved in running your own D&D campaign, sometimes it just fills up more time than I have available. And it's one of the nice things that we found with the legendary card game is that we can I've gotten to the point now where we have the setup, we can throw the setup together fairly well. My son and I both know what needs to be done, and so we just he takes this set of cards and I take this set of cards. We get it all set up fairly quickly, and we can get a game played in about 45 minutes. And so it works out really well. And, that when you only have that much time to play, it works out perfect. And with as busy as this family is, finding much more than an hour to play a game is a little difficult.
Definitely, and on top of the time, there is a lot of people out there, myself included, that feels like if you're the DM for a game such as D&D 5th Ed or whatever, it feels like a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
It feels like you're spending more of your time doing, I don't know, accounting than actually gameplay. So,
well, keeping track of all the different pieces and prepare, the keeping track of the story and helping guide the story. I want to try it, and I do want to give it a shot and run one for some people. But in the same side, it's just you got to find the time to do it, and you got to have the time to set it all up, and then you got to have all the time to play. And time is something that I don't seem to have a lot of.
Yeah, I can only imagine having two young kids like that.
Yeah. So we've got we talked a lot about board games here. There's a lot of board games, but I also wanted to mention a video game. I got an email the other day from Square Enix, and I don't know why I get emails from Square Enix, probably because I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy and signed up to get emails for some stupid reason. But and most of the time I just delete them. But this email kind of struck me a little bit, saying, "Hey, there's if you like Final Fantasy Tactics, there's a new game that you need to check out." And so I went to the website and actually looked this up, and I'm like, well, what is this thing? And when did Final Fantasy Tactics get a new version? It's not a new version of Final Fantasy Tactics, is what I found out. It's just a game similar to that. And if you like that JRPG tactical type games, Fire Emblem's another good example. You should definitely check out this game. It's called Children of Zodiarcs. It is actually on Kickstarter, and we will put a link to this in the notes for this video, and then also on our Facebook page. So definitely go check this thing out. But the part of the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because a lot of people probably get turned off when they see video game on Kickstarter, because you're backing something that could be multiple years from being completed. It could end the worry that it's going to end up like Peter Molyneux's Goddess game. What is that called? I forgot the name of it. But his game that basically has never really come to fruition the way he said it was going to, and almost sounds like it's kind of been put on the back burner. He's no longer involved in the game. So, that worry has always got to be there, because if something on Kickstarter funds, then your money's gone and you're not getting a refund, even if it ends up being crap. So Children of Zodiarc is taking a different tact with Kickstarter. This game has already been it's already been approved through the Square Enix Collective, which is basically like not necessarily a crowdfunding thing. It's more of a marketing thing. It's very similar to the Steam Greenlight project, where you can basically pitch an idea for a game, and Steam and Square Enix will, if they think this is a good idea, they'll put it out to their followers and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? And if it gets enough plus votes, Square Enix doesn't give any money for it, or any money to the people trying to develop it, but what they do is help with the marketing for it. They get their word out, which is why I got an email about this game that's by a company called Cardboard Utopia. This thing looks really cool, especially if you like the tactical stuff. But the idea of this Kickstarter is the game is already done. The game is coming out in April. Whether this Kickstarter is funded or not, the game has already had enough investments that this game is done and is coming out no matter what. They're using Kickstarter in a sense to add more to the game. It's almost like it's pure stretch goals. The stretch goals started at a pretty low amount. They were asking for $50,000, 50,000 Canadian dollars, which comes out to about 34,000 US dollars, which is way lower than any of the video games on Kickstarter at all. And their stretch goals started immediately. Initial funding, and then it was there was new stretch goals for adding stuff, new playable heroes, an encounter system that's basically random encounters on the world map. There's card leveling that they're working for. There's even if it reaches high enough, they're gonna open up almost like an arena battle type thing in this game. One of their stretch goals was getting this thing on PlayStation 4. So this is really kind of a cool idea and a different tactic for video games that you see, or even Kickstarter projects. I mean, a lot of the times you see Kickstarter projects are not funded at all. They have no money at all, and this thing's not going to happen at all unless the Kickstarter succeeds. This one, they've already flat out said, and they say it in the video, they don't need the Kickstarter money to complete the project or to complete the game. They're going to use the Kickstarter money to make the game better. How do you what do you think about that, Kip?
I actually like this idea. You look at the prices they're asking to get a copy, it's $20. A decent video game, you're expected to pay what, 40?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, for a decent game. Call of Duty's like $60. So they're not like gouging you. You feel like you're getting a good value for basically pre-ordering a video game. I like this idea, and the fact that they've got all these stretch goals that make the game better, and they're reaching them. I think this is actually a really good way of doing a Kickstarter campaign. I'm surprised it hasn't happened before now.
But yeah, me too. And maybe it has, and we just haven't seen it. But
what? I thought we saw everything.
Yeah, especially on Kickstarter, right? The stretch goals itself, or I guess not the stretch goals, the reward levels for this thing actually make it feel a lot more like you are pre-ordering the game rather than helping fund something to make it happen. I don't know, maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe it's the approach that this game is coming out, whether it's funded or not, but it's just kind of this idea of, hey, this game is coming and I want it. So I don't know.
Once I saw the video, it's like, yeah, Morph's buying that.
Yeah,
there's no question about it.
This is definitely my cup of tea. And there's not, I've searched on Steam, or at least through the Steam's OS to see if it was out there. I didn't see one, but that doesn't mean that it's not there. So I'm curious to see, I guess, looking at the dates, it's coming out in August. I think I said April before, but I believe it's coming out. It's supposed to be released in August. So, I don't know. This thing looks kind of cool.
It does look kind of cool. It brings up the question, would people back a pre-order kind of Kickstarter like this for a bigger company? In my world, it would be Fantasy Flight Games, or, would somebody pre-order through Kickstarter the newest release by Fantasy Flight Games?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, is it because it's a big company? Would it be a turnoff? If they offered enough extras with the Kickstarter that you wouldn't get if you just went to the game store and purchased it, would that be enough? These are questions. As soon as I saw that, it's like, would somebody like Triarch, Fantasy Flight Games, anybody like that who's large and in charge, would they do something like this? And if they did, would people back it?
That's a good question, and I don't know. You hear about, at least at one point, there was some backlash from it was to go on a tangent to Archie Comics, they wanted to. The publisher for Archie Comics wanted to started a Kickstarter to basically fund some spin-offs for, I think it was Archie. I think that's what it was. And there there was a lot of flack from that came from the community on that, and a lot of bad publicity, I guess, for that Kickstarter, and caused a little bit of backlash. But in that same sense, I don't know if a board game company or even another video company, would you flip out if Square Enix put up, or not Square Enix, if Ubisoft or uh, Activision or somebody who's been making AAA titles for a long time puts a game up on Kickstarter and says, "Hey, this thing's coming out. Here's how you can pre-order it." I think there might be some fight back on that, but I don't know with maybe Fantasy Flight with a board game if there would be as much. I, I'm curious. I'm curious to see what would happen, and I'm curious to see if this game getting funded, if it gets the publicity or gets more publicity and then sells really well through the normal means after Kickstarter and after this game's released, if it causes larger companies to take notice of that and maybe try this.
Yeah, and have they tried and Kickstarter said no, or have they just not tried? I mean, some of these companies are behemoths and they don't really need crowdfunding, but you'd imagine they would want to take any avenue they can to increase orders.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if Kickstarter would allow them to put some ridiculously low threshold. But then you also get into like the stretch goals. It's like, well, how do you add stretch goals to a game that's possibly already in production? I don't know. I really don't know. But I would be curious to see, and I would be curious to, we are good friends with the guys who own Prolific Games, and John and Bill have used Kickstarter to fund most, if not all, of their projects, and I believe they've all been successful.
Yeah.
And
would it kill them to have Fantasy Flight come in and start doing their games? Would it take their audience away? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Kickstarter is a great way to get people's attention and to not even, I guess not just raise money, but also raise awareness. If some of these Kickstarters where things have gone well and they've raised a lot of money, then Pillars of Eternity is one that strikes my mind. That thing funded really quickly and raised a lot of money on Kickstarter and turned out to be a really good game and got a lot of won some awards for its gameplay. And on that same side, would that have been, I don't know, would that have been different if that game was already done and when they put it on Kickstarter? Or if that game was close to being done when they put it on Kickstarter, and so that the majority of the work was already done and already funded by somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's that fine line between indie games and your big market games, and whether or not those big market games can slip in to or take a piece out of the indie market.
Yeah, it's a tough call. I mean, I've purchased different games through Kickstarter. Some of the games, not the stretch goal, but the certain level that you've pledged, got you things like your name in the rule book or something like that. I just don't think that would be something the bigger companies would do. So they'd really have to come to the table with something special, I guess is the word for it. If you can't have your name in the rule book of Fury of Dracula, then maybe all your minis are painted or something. I don't know, but yeah, it just seeing this just raises all these questions, and I'm curious to see where this is going to go.
Yeah, we will have to keep an eye on it, and I will definitely let you guys know, because I am going to fund this, or I'm going to, fund this project. That's the word I was looking for. Fund. I'm going to fund this project, and so I'm curious to see. I'm hoping that the game ends up being as good as what it looks like. And we'll find out in August, I guess.
Yeah, you will, and we will. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, stay tuned, everybody, for more. I don't know, you got anything else you want to throw out there, Kip, before we wrap it up for the night?
No, I'm just excited that I'm in town enough to play some games. I'm taking these two to work this whole week and hopefully get a few in.
Nice.
So
Sounds like fun.
Got that going for me.
I'll give everybody an update. I did post on Facebook earlier. I think that was today or yesterday. I can't really remember. Days are starting to blur together for me. But we are working on a legendary gameplay rules video for our YouTube channel, and we are working on recording a game of at least Kip and I playing it to kind of start up our Geekvice gaming I don't know, section. I don't know. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's just coming down to it. I suck at talking, apparently, as you can tell from this video or podcast, and the rules video is a lot harder to record when you're actually trying to sound coherent and intelligent.
And have a cold at the same time.
Yeah, and have a cold at the same time. Which intelligent and coherent are two things that I have never been used to describe me. So
me neither. That's why we do a podcast.
Well, we've got a recording now of it. I think it's pretty good. We're going through and doing some editing and cleaning it up a little bit so that it's not maybe make it a little bit better. And we'll get that up there as soon as we can. Editing is also really hard too. I did not realize how hard video editing was. These are all new territories for both of us, but we're trying. So bear with us, guys. Hopefully it'll be something that we can do more of, and we'll get better as time goes on, and you guys enjoy them. So please go to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Go to Facebook and like us on Facebook. All those things help us out. Give us 5-star ratings if you listen to us on iTunes or Stitcher Radio or wherever you get your podcasting goodness. You can comment on our videos on YouTube. I'm trying to read those a little bit more often and trying to comment back to them. You can also comment on Facebook to any of the posts we put up there, and I'm trying to respond to those every time somebody puts something up there. You can also follow us on our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com, and you can also, I mentioned Facebook, you can also find us on Google+. We don't do as much on Google+, but you can definitely find all these Hangouts easier on Google+, because we use Google Hangouts to record this, and Google Plus works with Google Hangouts. Surprise, surprise.
Weird.
Yeah. But you can also follow us on Twitter. That guy over there, you can follow at Kip Killigan. You can follow me at Geekvice. And thanks, everybody, for listening to our ramblings. And, of course, you can always email us at geekvice@gmail.com. And we will see you next week.
Later.